Hello ELM 258 students. This is an introduction to Automation Studio, and it's also a tutorial for Virtual Lab 2 where we're going to use Automation Studio to simulate some pneumatic circuits. Automation Studio has a lot of capability to simulate both pneumatic and electrical and also hydraulic and some other areas. You can also add a PLC and do some PLC programming in Automation Studio. So we're going to be using it quite a bit in the course. And so this is just an introduction to get started. So if you have it installed, now we have Automation Studio installed on all the computers in the labs, but if you have it installed on your own PC, there's a procedure for doing that should be posted on the course page. You should see an icon that looks like this. So I'm just going to double click that, and it takes a little while to open up. It's a pretty large program, so we'll wait for that to finish. So this is what the main screen looks like when you first start a program, and it has a bunch of templates that you can pick from, but we're going to just use this default over here, which is kind of a blank template that has all the main parts that we're going to need. Okay, so here's the main workspace in Automation Studio. We have menus on the left which have all different types of components, and this is the place where you're going to create the circuits. We're going to be creating 4 different pneumatic circuits, and we're going to need a little more room. This is an 8.5 by 11 landscape area. So if you go up here to this menu here, it says ANSI A1. We're going to change that to ANSI B, which is 11 by 17, and that's going to give us some more room to work with. So I'm going to start my diagram in the upper left area. So we're looking at pneumatics, so I'm just going to click on this pneumatic area of the menu, and the first thing I'm going to put down is an actuator. So if I just click on actuators, it brings up all the major types of actuators that you might need. Now there are some sub menus if you want to drill down and get more specific, but I'm just going to grab them from here. What I'm going to do is pick up a double acting cylinder and just drop it here on the diagram. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so it shows up a little better. Okay, so this is a typical double acting cylinder. We have a port for air that if the air flows in here, it's going to extend, and if air flows in here, it's going to retract, and it has to flow out of the opposite port. So to control that cylinder, we're going to need a valve. And so under directional valves, if you click on that, I guess that has to be, we have to look at the subcategories. Okay, the first valve we're going to do is going to be a 5-2 valve. And we're going to use, for this first circuit, it's going to be actuated by compressed air in both directions. So it says a 5-2 way directional valve, and it's got these two. Let me just bring it out here and put it down so you can see what it looks like. You see these triangles. Those are indicating that those are air pressure ports. So to move that valve over to the to its actuated position, we pump compressed air into this side, and to move it back, we pump the air into this side. And once it has been pushed over, it's going to stay there until it gets a pulse of air from the opposite side. So now I'm going to connect the valve to the cylinder. And the next thing we're going to do is, in order to drive this valve, notice there are 3 ports over here. So with the default position, we want compressed air to go in this port, and it's going to go in the direction of the arrow. It's going to push into this and push that cylinder to its retracted position. and air has to flow out of this port when that's happening. So we're going to need a pressure source and also an exhaust. Now, to get the exhaust and the pressure source, I'm just going to click on where it says pneumatic, which is the top level menu, because these are components that are used. You can find them down in here, and I always forget exactly where the source is, but it's easier, just go right to the top level, click on pneumatic. And so this pneumatic pressure source is, I'm just going to connect it right there. We can just put it right up against the pin. And then we need exhaust for this, and also an exhaust for this port, even though it's blocked right now. When this valve goes to its other position, we're going to need the air to exhaust out of that port. So I'm going to go ahead with this one. I'd like to label it so it's clear that that's the source, even though it is a triangle that indicates a source. So I'm just going to right click it, go to component properties, and you see where it says pneumatic pressure source. That's a label. If I check this box, it becomes visible. And I'm just going to position it down here below the symbol. Okay, the next thing we want to do is we're going to do a circuit where we're going to put two push buttons. When we push one button, it's going to allow air to flow into this side of the valve and push it over, and it's going to cause the cylinder to extend. And we're going to put another button over here that's going to cause it to retract. Okay, so we are going to need a 3-2 way. We want a normally closed valve. Now this might be a little confusing. If you're used to electrical terminology, closed means it's allowing current to flow. In this case, where we're dealing with pneumatics, closed means the port is closed, so air is blocked. So it's actually just the opposite. So I'm going to just click on this 3-2 way normally closed valves, and we're going to pick one that has a push button on one side and a spring on the other, so that when you let go of the push button, it springs back. So this is what it looks like. And I just want to rotate that so I go to transformation. So let me just show you what I just did. Sorry, we're moving too quickly here. Right click, transformation, and then rotate right 90 degrees. So now I'm going to connect that to this port so that right now the default is that there's no air flowing in. So now I need to connect this valve to compressed air, and one of the ports is going to connect to an exhaust. So I need to move this pressure source down a little bit, a little further. So the compressed air is going to connect to this port, which is currently blocked. And so when we push the button, it's going to allow the air to flow into the valve. And then this one needs an exhaust, so I'll just take this. I can do a Control C and a Control V, and that'll just, that's a standard Windows command. And I'll rotate that. And I think I'll move this line a little over. You can click the line and these little handles show up, and you can adjust the position of different lines. Okay, so we've got this side connected. We're going to now need the same thing on the other side. It's going to be the same valve. So I'm just going to click this, and I'll do another Control C, Control V to copy it. And since we're coming in from the other side, we need to flip this. Go to transformation, vertical flip. Okay, now we're just going to connect this up. We have to connect I'll put the exhaust on first. Copy this one. Flip it over. Okay, and then the other pin connects to the pressure source. Move this over a bit. Okay, so that should be ready to simulate. Let's see how it works. So to simulate, well, there's actually a button right up here, but you can also go to simulation and just click on normal simulation, and it'll come up like this. And now what it's showing you is these red areas are where the high pressure air is, and the blue areas are where there's low pressure. So you see the pressure sources coming in here. We got high pressure waiting at the 2 ports of the buttons, but it's right now directed through the valve into this port, and that's why the cylinder is pushed into its retracted position. So if I hit this button, it switches the valve over to that position and extends the valve. When I hit this, it's going to retract. So there's my basic pneumatic system with an extend button and a retract button. Okay, I want to add one thing here to make the diagram a little more readable. So I want to label these buttons. So if you double click the component, down here it has a generic name. It says directional valve. I'm going to change that to extend PB, short for extend, oh, I didn't spell it right, extend PB, extend push button. And now you have to check this box to the left in order for that to appear on the diagram. So there's the extend PB. I'm just going to tuck that label in here so it doesn't take up too much room. And this is going to be the retract PB. So same process. Check it so it appears, and we'll tuck that one into. All right, so now we have a diagram with some labels to make it a little more readable. Okay, in the next circuit, we're going to replace the retract push button with a cam roller, which means that when the cylinder extends, it's going to make physical contact with a cam, which is going to automatically push the button down, and it will then automatically retract. So I don't want to have to start from nothing. So what I'm going to do is copy this entire thing, and I can right click, copy, and just move over here into some empty space and paste. And so most everything is going to be the same. The only thing that's going to be different is this retract push button. So we're going to replace the retract push button with a cam roller valve. And so if you go down here, this one right here is, there's a spring on one side and a cam roller on the other. So we're going to rotate that and flip it so it looks like it's in the same position as the other valve. All right, and I'm just going to delete this valve right now, and let me just move the exhaust over to give myself some room. So the one thing about this is it has to be put in the right position, so that if, I don't know if you see this little dot at the end of the cylinder's rod, that has to make contact with the little dot that's on the cam roller in order for the simulation to see that it's physically contacted. Now I'm just estimating how far that rod is going to go, and I'll adjust it if I need to afterwards. But let me just put the exhaust on here to connect this valve to the input of the 5-2 valve, and then this one has to be connected to pressure. So that's it, just that one change, and let's just see how it goes. So when I hit the extend button, Nope, see, I didn't get quite far enough. So I just need to nudge it over a little bit, just to the left. One thing you could do, I'm just going to put this out as a suggestion. If you turn the grid on, you can actually see where on the grid the rod gets to, and then you don't have to do it by trial and error. So I'm just going to move it over, and that should now work. Yep. So it goes out. It's pretty quick. It goes out, and as soon as it hits that cam roller, the cam roller acts like an automatic retract button.